Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming. In the last video here, we began version 2 of our HTML, CSS, JavaScript to-do list, and I'm going to continue with that right now. But one thing I want to do, and I mentioned this in the last video, and that is I wanted to go in and start to add more comments. Alright, so I'm going to do that right now. Not only that, I found a few errors in here. Where was that one? There's two. That's wrong. Let's see, what else was there? That should be modal. I think that'll be it for right now. Okay. All right, but let's go in there. I think I have to do a better job of adding documentation as I'm creating something in here, so I'm going to do that right now. All right, again, I don't want to go into too much of this. You know, again, this is just the standard tag that you put in. I could put a comment in there, but it just says we're using the newest version of HTML there is. We're writing HTML, and the language we're using is English. This says basically that what we're doing is we are using UTF-8 encoding, which supports, you know, all the standard character settings. All right. All right, that meta thing, this, we'll talk about this later, but basically what this does is this is added for responsiveness. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but the idea is as you grow and shrink something, you want it to look good regardless of what you're looking at it on, the page you're looking at it on, etc. You want the page to scale properly on a phone, on a tablet, on a laptop, you know, on a whatever you're using. All right. Again, this, let's see, this title is what's going to show. Whoops. Title that shows in the top tab. Okay. All right. That's probably enough for in there. Okay. Then we've got our container. We've already talked about this H1. All right. So I don't think we have to talk about that. And then we've got this input row, which is what? It allows us to add an input. All right, so in other words, what this does is it contains both the text field and the add button. And they're side by side. Okay, all right. Task below is used by JavaScript to locate the field using getElementById. All right. This, and I originally called this add task, but I just decided to change it to add new task. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so this says when the button is clicked, call the JavaScript add new task function. All right. this means build the task list dynamically using JavaScript. And that's what JavaScript does, is it adds some dynamicity, for lack of better words, to whatever it is you're working with. All right? All right. Now, what's below this, in this second div, this is all the new stuff. All right? So this, and here we will ask the user to confirm before a task either is or is not deleted. Okay? So what else do we have in here? Now right here with this confirm task, where is that? And this confirm message. JavaScript repeats the task text for the user. It'll just to help him or her before, so they're sure indeed that is what they want to do. They want to remove that. All right, and then finally, reference for JavaScript, and I'm gonna add a little more here. So putting the line, that is right, the line below at the end of the body tag assures that the entire DOM, document object model, is parsed before the script runs. Okay, I think that's enough. It's quite a few comments that I put in there. So, all right, so let's go to styles. I'm going to get rid of everything that's in here because we're going to start brand new. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is set up what's typically referred to as a global reset. There's a lot of ways to do this, just so you know. I like to do mine like that, but there's a lot of ways to do a global reset. I'm going to come in here and say box sizing, border box, and then margin 0, padding 0. All right. What this border box does, between that and the padding, it's going to make sure that every element that we have is included inside the declared width and height, so that the layout's going to be more predictable, in other words. All right. So let's do the body. And we can do a font family. Again, I like using Arial. You could pick anything you wanted to pick there. You can have a background color. And just to show you, let's do a background color. And these are the built-in colors that are right here, but we can also add our own. So let's add, found a light blue online, which was kind of neat. Okay, and what this is these are hexadecimal low numbers. hexadecimal is base 16. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, etc., it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then 16 would be 1, 0, 0, 1s, and 1, 16. Okay. All right. Now we want to center this thing horizontally. Okay. So we're going to do two things. We're going to say here display flex, justify content, center, and we'll add some padding here. Now we've got two numbers listed here, 40 pixels and 20 pixels. Since there's two numbers, look at it like sort of like a clock. So the 40 pixels will be for the top and the bottom, and the 20 pixels will be for the right and the left, or the left and the right. All right. We could have put in here 40 pixels, 20 pixels, 40 pixels, 20 pixels. If we wanted 40 pixels all around, we could have just put in 40 pixels. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. All right, now let's do our container. We had a class of container. You put a dot there to symbolize that you're using a class. Now we can either say white, like that, or we can say all Fs, total saturation. A little bit of a rounded effect in here. I don't know, how about 30 pixels? Let's have this fill out the entire body. So if you've got a very narrow viewport, if you're looking at it from a phone, for example, it'll fill out everything. And let's put a little shadow on here. Okay. How about our H? And we'll do an H2 take. I think that's what I'm used in here anyway. So. I don't know what that's doing here. Now notice that's pretty much a dark, almost black. All right, and notice I only put 3 numbers there. Since it's 333333, we only need 3 numbers. All right, next we have our input row. We want a space between the text field and the button. This is how we can do it with CSS. And that'll just give me a little separation between the row and the task list. This is our text input. That'll expand it to take up any remaining row space. And these are just some things that we're putting in here to try to make this look a little bit nicer aesthetically. So when we have the focus on our field, on our input field, let's use a steel blue. All right, what do we got left? Let's take a look at our handiwork so far. We're not done. All right, but let's run this. Gotta do it here. Okay, so you can see it looks a little bit different already. Don't worry about this. We haven't touched that stuff yet. But you can see the background here. You can see how this is all set up in here. All right, and again, we're not done. But we are at 18 minutes. Seems to me like a pretty good spot to break right now. Got to do our buttons and our unordered list. And a few other things. All right, so we'll do that starting in the next video. And we'll finish that up, and then we'll go back in and we will write the JavaScript. Now you'll notice I'm not putting a lot of comments in here in the CSS. I'm trying to explain it as we go on, and maybe that's not as good, I don't know, but I'm going to keep commenting the HTML and the JavaScript as we go along. All right, I'll see you shortly.